if you'd like. Hello, how are you? A little wet out there? Hello, just a bit, right? You could go ahead and if you want to look at the designrightstudio.com, you can bring that up and it should be refreshed. The way you can tell if it's refreshed is to, here, is you can look at the recent, and the most recent tiddler I changed is called What is Hypertext? So if that shows up at the top of your recent list, then you're good. If not, then you haven't refreshed. So yeah, it'll take a while. Yeah. So the About Me and Tags exercise, the About Me, I actually didn't check to see if everybody did it. I just checked the ones that were done. So if you didn't do it, that's not good. But you'll just fall further behind. But don't. And I hope that you saw sort of what I did. Hello. In terms of the critiques and stuff. What I want to do today is I'm going to start the class with a kind of a short presentation. I changed the topic from what I was going to talk about to simplify it a little bit. So it's a little bit, but I want you to have a feel for what it is that we're doing. So you know why you're doing this as opposed to how to do it or as well. And then we'll keep adding on to the why stuff and what it's about. So I'll talk for maybe 15 minutes really briefly, 5 of which will be on a video. Yeah.
Just a question I had. Can we use like the same tiddlywinky?
Yeah. I love calling it Tiddlywinky. Calling it Tiddlywink. I like that. Yeah. You said, can we use the same Tiddlywink? That's pretty fun. Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk. But you can use the same Tiddlywinky for the whole semester if you want. I'm not exactly sure what the advantage is. Certainly by the time we get into like the more advanced exercises, you'll want to start doing that. Right now, the reason I had you creating new ones was just to get you into the habit of creating new ones. And it makes it easier for me, and I'm all about me. It makes it easier for me to go in quickly and look at it and see if it's there. Because I can just look at what tiddlers did they build, and and I can figure it out. It's really not a big problem, but I will want you to put sort of a front to it so I can find it. When there's only, like you'll see the next exercise that we're doing that we're going to run through today, you create maybe 15 tiddlers. And so once you start getting there, like when you create 2 or 5, that's easy. But when you create all those, then it gets a little harder for me to find your code. So at least the initial exercises, separate wikis work. But if you want to do it in the same wiki, that's perfectly fine as well. The advantages for you is that all your code is right there. You can always find it, copy, and you don't have to drag and drop across different wikis. So, yeah. Okay. We're working with this thing called Hypertext. And, that's supposed to be in a slightly different format. There we go. View as a slideshow. Okay. There. And so what you're seeing, by the way, is something that you'll be able to play with over time. Is that I changed the theme of my Tiddlywinky. I switched from heavier to punch theme, and that doesn't display the titles of the wikis, of the tiddlers. It changes things around, centers everything, kind of makes them into slides, and you'll see I've written some macros. Over a little bit of time, we'll talk about how those work. But the reason I wanted to do this was to show you that we're in the same wiki or document or text, but it has a very different format, flavor, presentation, depending on how you ask for it. And so that's interesting. That's a feature. That's a hypertextual feature. So we want to ask how many of you watched this Wesh video? The machine is us using it. So I'm going to play it because I think it's really important to see it. So what he does there, I think he does it really nicely, is kind of introduces this concept. He's got a lot of words, a lot of thoughts in there. He talks about digital text, hypertext. He shows you tagging. He shows you linking. He shows you, he doesn't name it, transclusion in a big systematic way, big systems. The web is a text. We're all the web. We can write the text. We write the database. What we do is in a smaller scale, everything that he's talking about. So I give you a set of tools through TiddlyWiki that allows you to do all of those kinds of things. You can make those kinds of texts. He had that. We're going to reverse engineer Google text. We're going to reverse engineer Wikipedia. So you can see at a code level without, it's not a computer coding class. So we don't actually teach coding logic in a sense, but we teach called Markdown, basic angle brackets and then couple little loopy things, but it's not the same kind of code that you'd learn in computer science classes. But you get you have enough power to make things. I just like to say to make text dance. You could make the text do the stuff that he's doing. Not quite in that video. As we go through the semester, especially over the next 4 or 5 weeks, when we'll be introducing all these words like linking and tagging and transcluding and filtering and templating and hypertext, keep going back to that video and look at it again and say, oh, I get it. I know what they're doing there. I can do that now, because you'll be able to. So that's why I'd like to show that. The Wikipedia hypertext article is worth reading at least the first paragraph. And that word that we use, hypertext, comes up over and over and over again. And in the next 2 weeks, I'll be assigning a set of readings that take you into a little bit of the history of hypertext. And I'm hoping that you'll see, or at least come to understand perhaps that maybe we'll talk about it, but in my view, TiddlyWiki as a platform is the closest thing to pure hypertext as it was designed and imagined by the guru, Ted Nelson, that's ever existed. You'll read a little bit in 2 weeks, I think, an article on his product called Xanadu for literary hypertext, which never came out of it's never been issued. It's a product that's been literally 50 years in development, and they haven't ever gone to market with it. TiddlyWiki, on the other hand, is very close in many respects to Nelson's original vision. As opposed to straight HTML, which is what you see on web pages, it lacks lots of the features of hypertext. In that video, you saw them talking a little bit about XML, some other sort of programs that get us a lot closer, but still require a high level of expertise. And TiddlyWiki, as an author, is a person without a lot of technical skills. Some of you have way more technical skills than I do, and I'm not suggesting you don't. But you don't need them, and you can make pretty sophisticated hypertextual documents, and I believe at least confront the ideas of hypertext in a pretty quickly. I directed you or asked you to read some of Nelson. Ted Nelson is the coined the term hypertext, hypermedia, transclusion, intertextuality. He's still alive. He's still writing. He's in his 80s, I think. I don't know. Maybe we could do a video chat with him during class. He's quite an odd guy. Really, I mean, there's a bunch of videos you can watch, and he's quite odd. But he more than anyone else, maybe. The other one we would look at is Doug Engelbart. Doug Engelbart is in the 60s, the guy who directed the lab that literally invented the computer mouse, the concept of a file, the concept of putting text in a file and saving it and having a file. I mean, all that stuff got invented. You know, we just live with it now like it's like, of course there's always a file system. Well, there wasn't. So Engelbart and Nelson, working not together but at the same time, pretty much developed all the tools that made what we live with today possible. I focus in this class mostly on Nelson's stuff. Oh, I forgot to bring it. Damn, I was going to bring the book. I have a copy of the book, Computer Live Dream Machines. It's really hard to find. It's like outrageously expensive. The copies are like $100 a piece if you can find them. But if you ever find one, buy it. It's a. I have another book that I'll just describe. So this is his book was really cool. One of the I can't remember the name of the publishing term for it, but you know, you'd open it up and this was Computer Lib, and it went to this half, and then you'd flip it over, and this is Dream Machines, and it went. So they were cross bound. So two books bound together as one. Self-published, and he's got the copyright, and he's a big believer in copyright, and so the copies are really hard to get because he doesn't let anybody digitize it, and so anybody who asks, he says no, and he gets really pissed off if you do it. So I don't, but I have a PDF of it somewhere. There was a bunch of excerpts published, so like 35-40 pages of reading that you can skim through. It's not easy reading exactly because he's kind of odd, but do skim through it and get a feel for it. And I think they've got some of the pages. That's the cover. This is what it looked like. This is, you know, this is one of his pages. It's got, you know, stuff written, and I'll bring it in and let you play around with it. But do read through this just to get a feel for it. I think that his, it's like one of the core texts in using computers. His whole concept, which was radical in the 60s, was that computers were going to be used by people who write, by ordinary people, not just engineers, not just scientists, like us. He imagined this in the 60s, that, yeah, everybody's going to have a computer. And that was when the computers were the size of this room, not this size. Literally the size of the room, but he just said, no, we're all going to have computers, and they're for ordinary people, and it's really important for us to do that because otherwise all of the computing stuff is going to be controlled by the scientists and engineers. And so it was a pretty radical vision. Oh, there it is, paperback, $89.44. Go for it. That's a lot, right? Let's see what the 74 edition is selling for. Oh, $149.
If you buy it new, it's $400.
Yeah. It's like he won't. I don't know why he won't republish it, but he won't. If anyone's really interested, ask me, and I don't know, maybe if you give me your phone, I'll lend you my copy or something like that. But you can read, this commentary site is kind of cool. There's a picture. That's what one of his pages look like. It's just a really cool book and a really cool set of concepts. So, yeah. So I'm introducing you to these concepts, and I want you to get a little bit of your brains working around what hypertext is and why you're doing it. But the readings are pretty light for the week. But I don't want you to think that we're not doing anything scholarly or academic. It's not just coding. So I'll continue to add stuff to it. But I wanted you to spend most of your time in the first couple of weeks working on the exercises so that we could actually make sure that you get the basics. Because once you've got the basics, once you can create a tiddly spot, once you can make tiddlers, once you get through the first 2 exercises and then the next 2 that we're going to do, then you're set for the semester. You've got the basics, and the rest is just enrichment. So, okay. So that's the, so I said 15 minutes. I was right there at 15 minutes. So,